Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. I am Teresi Etim Efyong. Our first guest today is an entertainment lawyer, and she has quite some achievements under her belt. Georgette is an associate at Olaniwun Ajayi LL.B. and works in the firm's finance and capital markets practice and entertainment, leisure and media practice. Her experience spans advising on diverse finance matters, including equity financing, local and international debt financing, derivatives transactions, as well as the intricacies of drafting technical, entertainment, and media contracts. Having also gained litigation experience, Georgette has provided notable companies with legal representation across superior courts in Nigeria, which also included launching a test case for defamation against one of Nigeria's foremost bloggers. I don't know that we're going to be allowed to talk about that, but welcome to the morning show, Georgette.
Hello, Teresi.
Hi, how are you this morning?
I'm very well, thank you.
Can we talk about that case against the foremost blogger?
I mean, considering the fact that it's still a live case, pending before court, I don't think we can discuss that.
No, we cannot. Okay, all right. So let's talk about entertainment law. Now, a lot of entertainers believe that, and I feel like the way the Nigerian industry is set up, people don't really hire the services of entertainment lawyers. It's just like, oh, my friend is going to be producing this movie. He says I can be on the movie. Great, I'm going to be on the movie. I get paid, so I don't really, why do I need an entertainment lawyer? But now you're here. Why is it important for every entertainer across the board to actually get the services of an entertainment lawyer?
I mean, I think, first of all, like, you are right. It is true that, typically in Nigeria, especially because of how the industry began, everything was very unstructured. There was no regulation. There was no law and order, so to speak. Everyone would look to their uncle, brother, sister, mother to assist them in costume design, makeup. If we're talking about the film industry, renting someone's home for free because, I mean, it reduces production costs. And that's all fine. There's no problem with that, if you don't want to go to a lawyer. But in the event that it doesn't work out. In the event there's a problem, and then what? You have absolutely no recourse under the law. So it's important that, all entertainers, irrespective of whether or not you're in the film industry, fashion industry, music industry, that you actually go to lawyers to seek advice and seek legal representation.
Yeah, but what is one thing entertainers need to know, in terms of, let's talk about the film industry. Like, I'm quite partial.
Yeah, I can tell.
To the film industry, but like, apart from the contracts, you going through my contracts, you making sure I have a contract. Retainers are expensive. Let's even talk about that. Retaining the services of an entertainment lawyer. I mean, how much? Again, people are not getting well paid. They feel like they cannot afford the services of a lawyer. So, apart from the contract, what other value would you add to me?
I mean, it just depends the kind of lawyer you meet. At the law firm I work for, Olaniwun Ajayi, we're not just legal advisors, we're also commercial advisors. So what we seek to do is that we look at what your complete plan is, what your complete business structure is, or what your complete vision is for yourself in the industry, and advise you accordingly. So if, for example, you came to us and you said to us that you wanted to go into, this, film, have this film production that's done, and we would ask you, okay, you want to do that, what else are your plans? Because everything that we do on that particular project can also impact whatever else it is that you have planned in the future. Right. So your lawyer is supposed to add value. They're supposed to think outside of the box. And in relation to fees and in relation to hiring lawyers,
at
the end of the day, fees are negotiable. I mean, they really are. I mean, there's no statutory limit on, or statutory minimum quota for how much of you're supposed to pay a lawyer. At the end of the day, if you're going to a lawyer who is incredibly passionate about the industry, who understands the industry that you operate in, then they would definitely take that on board when charging you, and possibly even, like our firm does, give you flexible fee payments.
Okay, so talking about the Nigerian entertainment industry, I mean, you've been here for a while now. What growth, what changes have you seen? What structures have you seen put in place now that wasn't there like 10 years ago? Because again, there's so much ignorance. We don't even know what we have. We don't even know what we're entitled to. So what are some of the structures that have been put in place that would protect me as a musician, me as a writer, me as a film producer? Yeah.
I mean, first and foremost, I think everyone needs to realize that, irrespective of what, strata of the industry that you're in, all of your rights derive majorly from the Copyright Act. You know, it's an act that was, you know, put into force a long time ago, and states that whether or not you have any literary work, which is lyrics, for example, or books, or whether you have musical work, which is your actual like sound recording, whether or not you have a film, which is your cinematograph rights, all of that is found within the Copyright Act. So that's foundational. In relation to like growth and seeing growth in the industry, I think a lot of people are starting to realize the importance of having their legal rights adequately protected. I think in the recent past, we've had, you know, Wizkid leaving EME, we've had, you know, Don Jazzy and the Banj's drama, you know, more recently Kiss Daniel and his label. So we're seeing how a lot of artists are starting to realize that it's important that they have, you know, their rights adequately protected from jump. And because of that, it means that even record labels are starting to improve on their structures. You know, it means that film producers are starting to improve on their structures. And as well, because the industry has grown to such a point, we have, you know, financial investors, you know, international investors that are interested in investing in the industry. Albeit that there is still that, you know, unstructured approach to things. But because of that, you find that a lot of businesses are trying to shape themselves up to be ready for investment.
Right. So these are some things that we have. Now, I saw the case of one movie producer, Olaniwun, and a writer, Judy Dada, and he said he had been commissioned to write a script, and he had written the script, and I think something about she saying she did not like the script, or she did not want the script, or she never got back to him or something. And the next thing, he sees a movie with the exact same storyline, but like names have been tweaked, and you know, a few things have been tweaked here and there. And she says, no, that's not his story, and he took her to court. Now, talk to me about the rights of a writer, because I feel like they're very underrepresented. Is that it? Like that. I feel like they get cheated easily, especially in this part. So what are the rights of a writer, and what should a writer do when they have their work?
I think first and foremost, you know, as you know, copyright doesn't vest in an idea. It has to vest in something that's tangible, so something that's made into a physical form. It's not enough for you to say that you had an idea about creating a movie about acrobats and wizards, and, you know, somebody else does the same, and then you claim there's copyright infringement. So as a writer, I think it's not just your idea. You have to actually sit down and write your script, or write your notes as to what it is you want to create. When you've done that and you have your script in hand, I'd advise you going to the NCC if you're in Nigeria, if you're a Nigerian writer. You know, go to the NCC and register, you know, the literary work, you know. And once you do that, the NCC delivers or gives you a certificate. You know, you don't even have to go to the NCC in physical form. You can just do that online. And what that does is that you have like actual tangible proof that you were the person that thought about this idea, that, you know, brought it to life in the form of a script. So in the event that somebody decides to take your script and, you know, use it for their own purposes, you have that protection. But I also think it's equally important, and I know that, you know, industry participants don't like the idea of an NDA. You know, I think, which is a non-disclosure agreement.
There's a lot of, it's my friend,
you're my friend,
you're my friend,
exactly. It's tough. But I mean, even if it's, I mean, not that I would advise this, but I mean, even if it's a one-liner or, you know, two-liner in an email saying that, you know, by receiving or accepting receipt of this script, you hereby, will hereby, I don't know what, protect.
Adhere.
Yeah, adhere, you know, adhere, like protect, you hereby adhere to keep whatever it is that you've read, you know, confidential, so that in the event that they decide, you know, to go ahead and, you know, use it, then you have some form of like protection, some case. But I would really advise you to please sign an NDA. I know it's hard, I know it's difficult, I know it's challenging, but the risk that you run of someone taking something you've worked so long and so hard for is just huge. Another thing as well, I mean, because we're talking about copyright infringement, it's not just the fact that the work that's been created, you know, is similar. You know, so what I mean by that is that, you know, because they'd have had to have written a script for that movie, right? So what the court would look at is the two scripts in question and do a comparison of the two. So how similar are the scripts? We're not just talking about names and, you know, obviously names of the actors and actresses would change, but what exactly is similar in the substance of the story? And what they would look at apart from just similarity is also looking at access. How much access or what access did that person have to your work that you can claim that they have infringed on your copyright? You know, so people that, you know, would have shared it by way of email, would have shared it in a meeting, you know, can lead that evidence in court to say that I actually had given it to them in a meeting to look at. And, you know, just avoiding that, if you know that you just want to play safe, you know, why not just speak to somebody about the idea? You know, have them formally enter into an option and assignment agreement with you. So what that agreement is, what it does is that for producers especially, they'll go to the writer and say that, okay, well, you have an excellent idea, create a script for me. When you create that script, I'm going to go and look for funding for your film. Now, in the event that I do not get funding, right? Whatever I've paid you for the work you've done is whatever I've paid you, and the rights continue to vest in you as the writer. But if I've managed to get funding and it goes, and I've paid you, and it goes to production, and we're actually making this film, then you automatically assign the rights that you have in the script to me as the producer to enable me to do my work. You know, so as a writer as well, I would advise seeking protection. Because it's not even just about the film world. I know people who have written scripts for TV and have submitted the scripts, you know, to, you know, some TV houses. And if I read their clearance forms, I'm like, you can't sign this. You can't. Like, it's just, it's beyond, you know, an infringement of your rights. It's actually just unfairly prejudicial. It's just wrong. You know? And I say to them, don't sign it. You know, it's completely unfair if you do. And, you know, another thing that lawyers can help you with is that we give you bargaining power. We do. Yeah,
because now you're speaking for me. I'm no longer, like, talking to you as me. I have somebody actually representing me, and that makes sense. That makes sense. Let's talk about the fashion industry. We see a lot of copies. You know, this big designer comes out with this elaborate and beautiful design, and then smaller designers start copying. Does that designer have a case?
I mean, it's a fine line. It's a fine line. I mean, because even within the Copyright Act, it's not as clearly defined as you'd like it to be. You know, artistic work is, you know, pretty much defined from everything from photography to like paintings to graphic art and architectural design and sketching. I mean, you could potentially seek recourse under the law, which I don't think has been tested as far as I'm aware in Nigeria. You know, claiming that, you know, your sketches are artistic work, that probably could work. But I mean, in terms of your protection, that would probably be your protection. The fact that you had your sketches were original to you. But then again, we come into the, you know, the idea of access. How do they have access to your sketches to copy it? You know, it's such a fine line. I mean, we have Gucci and Versace, and then we have Gucci and Versace, you know, in Nigeria. So, I mean, it's a very fine line. I think for fashion designers especially, I think if you have your sketches, which you obviously would have, you know, try and register them at the NCC. I know it's a long shot, but I mean, try and register them if you can. But that's the hazard, that's the risk, I think, with fashion more than anything else, because you can actually just see it and copy it, you know, from the runway, literally. So, I mean, for you, I think as a fashion designer, just continue doing what you do, continue being original. It's one thing to look at a dress, for example, and copy it, and for you to have finished it with good quality cloth and good quality linen and good quality material, which sets you apart from everything else. You know, so just keep pushing. I mean, imagine if somebody like trying to steal, like, you know, Diola Sego is like, what's that new?
The laser cuts thing.
Yeah, the laser cuts.
She started it, and a lot of people are doing it, and I'm just like,
I mean, the thing is, at the end of the day, like, your design is original to Diola Sego. We all know Diola Sego started it, you know, just because of the hype that came around, you know, I think the price of, of the laser cut. I remember telling my mom, I was like, hey, Mom, if I marry you, man, oh my gosh.
Yeah, that laser cut.
That laser cut, and it's fantastic.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Yes,
it's absolutely
it is.
beautiful. But the way Dear Let's would have finished it is completely different to how somebody else would
have finished it.
You know,
Yeah.
so I think just knowing that you are who you are and you are, you know, unique in your own way.
Yeah, just making sure you hold on to your clientele, you know, because at the end of the day, it's about making money.
Exactly.
Yeah, and even being protected, but more importantly, I'd say making money. Now, this conversation will not be complete without us talking about the music industry. So you go to so many like bars and lounges and all these places, and they're playing particular songs. There's no royalty. There's nothing going back to the musician. There's nothing going back to the producer. How can we change this? And even with even things like karaoke and things like live bands, you know, shouldn't they be paying some sort of stipend maybe or something to the originator of the song?
I mean, I'll speak to live bands and then I'll go to like, you know, bars and clubs. First and foremost, I think anyone that decides to do a cover of a song, you'd have to know that you must get permission from the original owner of that song. So if it's, you know, Wizkid's or Georgette Monnou, you must go to, you know, Starboy or perhaps EME, because it was when he was still under like EME at the time, and, you know, get permission from them to be able to sing it. And what would typically happen is that they would, you know, ask you for a fee, you pay your fee, and you can sing it for however long they've given you a license to be able to sing the song for. So what they're giving you is a license to be able to sing the song for a particular period, right? I think artists in Nigeria don't mind and don't care, because at the end of the day, in relation to live bands anyway, as far as I'm aware, I think for them it's like a trade-off, because at least their song is gaining popularity, their song is being played at weddings, and they're happy about that. I mean, for bars, clubs, and restaurants, I think, you know, as establishment owners, you need to know that you do need a license. You do need a license to be able to play your music, and typically you're supposed to get that license from COSON. So COSON is actually the collecting society, the only recognized collecting society in Nigeria to date, recognized by the NCC, which is the Nigerian Copyright Commission. And you're supposed to go to COSON and you're supposed to get a license to be able to play any of the music of any of the artists they have in their repertoire. So if it's Wizkid, if it's Davido, I mean, if they're signed on to COSON, you have the license to be able to play their music in your bars and in your clubs. Because what happens is whatever monies that are generated from, you know, giving out all these licenses to all these bars and clubs, COSON will then distribute it to the artists and to the record labels in the particular format that they've presented to COSON to do. That's COSON's job. Now, I think in recent years, you know, COSON has done quite a lot in terms of like advocacy about, you know, rights of artists, musical artists in the industry. But I think what they've been struggling with is the actual manpower to be able to like enforce. If we're going to like, there are tons of bars and clubs. I mean, if we're going to cross, you know, jurisdiction and we start talking about, you know, the United States of America, or we talk about the United Kingdom, you know, where they have the Performers' Rights Society, they have, you know, PRS licenses to be able to, you know, to play music. You know, typically they have a lot of agents in all the various locations in the United Kingdom to do these sorts of checks. And if you actually go on the streets of London to any random bar or pub, you'd probably see like a little sticker that says that they have the right to be able to play music, and it would be like a PPL or a PRS license.
Interesting.
Yeah. So which is what's supposed to happen here.
Be happening here,
And I think the industry is picking up. We'll get there in the end.
I really hope we get there, because especially for the sake of the musicians, you know, like it's sad to see like musicians, their counterparts in the United States, and they're talking about, oh, how much is this person worth? And this person is worth like $20 million. This person is worth like $150 million. And then you come back, you bring it home, and after the first hit, the second hit, you see them, they're like, they don't even have houses to their names, you know, they're still renting, they're still... So, yeah, I feel like something really needs to be done in that stead. Something really needs to be done.
Recently, actually, like one of the major conversations we've been having in Nigeria in the entertainment industry has been about publishing and publishing rights. A lot of record labels, a lot of artists are starting to ask questions about it. Because at the end of the day, that's your lifelong means to eat, if you want to call it that. I mean, for example, you have, you know, deals with, you know, iTunes and Spotify and, you know, various, you know, online distribution and streaming platforms, YouTube, Vimeo. And there are actually, you know, monies that, you know, you get on a monthly basis, a quarterly basis from these, you know, platforms.
Right.
And what that is and what it means is that you're getting royalty payments, you know, every single quarter. And it's starting to happen. Artists are starting to take it more seriously.
Okay,
you know,
I'm happy to
artists are
hear
starting to
that.
make money. You know, I think, you know, unreportedly, I think Yemi Alade made quite a lot of money last year from, you know, royalty payments alone.
Great.
You know, in one jurisdiction, like in just the United Kingdom. If we're going into like the United States, or if we're talking about, you know, across Africa, you know, we have a lot of you know, content distribution platforms, you know, that are trying to assist artists in helping them to, you know, reclaim their rights. I think we've got MTech now that are trying to come in to assist artists, and they've been around for quite some time. We have Free Me Digital. There are, you know, other distribution platforms internationally, like DistroKid is very popular now. So we have artists and record labels starting to think about the long-term impact of their music, wider than just, I just did a concert and I'm blowing, you know.
Yes. I'm really happy to hear that. And it's been so amazing talking to you and interesting. I've learned so much. I don't want this to end. And I know that there were some issues with Koson as well recently but we really need to go on a short break now. Maybe we'll talk about it after the break. Stay with us. We'll have more from Georgette on the Me Too movement. Also, our Rise correspondent, Labo Daniel, will be joining us for the discussion. Don't go away.